I honestly believe it was one of, if not the most profound modern day driving experience I've ever had.
In the misty mornings of Ängelholm, the Swedish Air Force would take to the skies, returning at dusk under the cover of darkness. And their presence was heard, but rarely seen, and as such they became known as the Ghost Squadron. Born from the same hangars that the jets once flew, each Koenigsegg Hypercar now honours the legacy of the squadron, wearing the symbol of the Ghost once adorned on the wings of the jets. And today, the Ghost Squadron takes a different flight.
This year's Ghost Squadron tour in the Dolomites, we celebrated our 30th anniversary, and by coincidence, we were so happy. We were hoping many cars would come, but we had 30 Koenigsegg's. Not more, not less. There were 30 Koenigseggs there, and that was not something we could, even if we wanted to have, easily planned. That's where we ended up, so that was just amazing.
Literally for the last 6 years, I've been watching this event unfold online.
The Ghost Squadron Tour is a fabulous event that's hosted by the factory. It's an annual event that gives owners and dealers the opportunity to come out, spend some fabulous time together in some wonderful hotels, touring some of the very best driving roads anywhere in the world.
It's a get-together where we celebrate the cars we do, the emotions, the experience, share memories, and just enjoy the Koenigsegg experience together.
The first morning comes along, and Christian comes over and says, actually, we've got 2 cars that need to be driven today. And it was James and I looking at each other thinking,
is this happening? Like, we're joining the Ghost Squadron tour in 2 incredibly special Koenigsegg's, and we have one each. We just assumed, because Koenigseggs are so rare, that we would end up driving and sharing. But there we were, both with our own car from day one. So welcome to the beginning of the Koenigsegg Ghost Squadron Tour 2024. It's the largest gathering of Koenigseggs ever to happen in history. We've got 30 cars to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Koenigsegg being founded, and we're going to take you along for the ride for the next few days. Today, we're in the CCXR. There's quite a few other Koenigseggs around us. Believe it or not, this racing car has an early CC engine in it, which is quite cool. Okay, this is absolutely insane. Like, I've seen some views in the car world over the years. I have never seen anything quite like this. Not only are we just on the outskirts in the mountains above Lake Garda, which in itself adds to the occasion, but the sheer quantity of Koenigseggs, are you kidding me right now?
Exactly 30 Koenigseggs for 30 years of this remarkable brand. Seeing just one Koenigsegg out in the wild is like spotting a unicorn in its natural habitat.
Total pinch myself moment that I'm even involved in this. I can't believe it.
But 30, all driving together at the same time. Well, have you ever seen a herd of unicorns?
All right, destination reached. This is the one I've been wanting to see out in the sun. So this is I mean, if you said the words out loud, a gold Jesko, you'd think you were crazy. I think because the sculpture of it is so wild, it kind of works, you know? It kind of works. So for us as a dealership, it was just a moment of, okay, we're there in an official capacity, but the way that the Koenigsegg team make you feel, all of a sudden, you're part of the family, you're on this exclusive but incredibly friendly journey, and it really allowed us to get a much better feel of, importantly, the other products, but also get an impression and a feeling as to why these customers, of which there was over 30 of them, all in one space, liked these cars so much. The value of that was just phenomenal. So, as I mentioned earlier, there's 30 Koenigseggs here. This is technically customer car number 1, it's chassis number 2. Pretty special, I actually drove that. That's the guys from Garage. They were very, very kind to lend me the keys to that a while ago. This is another Garage car, and the one that melted the internet. So this would be the CC850 automatic manual, as it were. Unbelievable. Full KNC Yes, go absolute. When you see these things in reality, and I know I've said this over the years, the photos really don't do these things justice. This thing in the sun, in bare, naked carbon, outlandish. It's unbelievable the amount of Koenigsegg's. I've never witnessed an automotive scene quite like it. It's literally like 30 unicorns have just rolled into town. All right, this is the Regera that Adam's been driving. So in terms of spec, this is full fat. So optional upgrade, air core wheels. These are totally carbon fiber, lightest in the world for their size. And I'm not sure if the camera is picking this up. First of all, it's exposed blue carbon, which you can see. But on top of that, within the clear coat, there's this sort of reflective crushed blue diamond effect. See it? It's like sort of blue diamond dust throughout it. Magical. And then on the inside, it has a sort of baby blue interior. It's one of the coolest spec Regeras I've seen. It's so classy. And it also has complementing accent lines also in the baby blue, which is matching the interior. You absolute madman. Well, look at this. How's that for a camera rig? Definitely world's coolest camera car. Check out the rear as well. So that's the umbilical cord from Ronin 4D, and they've created a custom-made heat shield for it. So we're going to be having some pretty sexy tracking shots. I love this family, man. They're so rock and roll. This might be one of my all-time favorite specs on a Jesko. Look at it. The gold leaf against this sort of iridescent purple. Quite spectacular. When I say gold leaf, I really mean gold leaf. Fabulous. Let me just ask you this, as far as days at the office go, because technically, Adam, this is a working day.
This is a working day. Technically, as working days go, James, this is the best one ever, I think.
The best one ever?
Absolutely the best one. It's not even, I don't even need to think about it. Don't even need to think about it.
One of the really interesting things about the Regera that we drove on the tour was that actually back in 2022, the car was damaged in a flood.
Sadly, that particular Regera was subject and victim of the hurricane. It had incredible water damage.
It got salvaged and put up as a sort of a salvaged car by the insurance company. So we made sure to buy that back, as it's a very complex car. And with very complex systems, it's not so easy for anyone to work on such a thing. And we took it down complete to molecules, checked everything, removed anything that was affected by the situation. The car was pretty much brand new apart from that, and rebuilt it from ground up like a perfectly undisturbed, ideal Koenigsegg Regera, which is now in a like new, pristine condition with no downsides at all.
It's one of the most beautiful specs I've seen. So inside was this sort of like soft baby blue interior. It was almost Rolls-Royce-esque. And then on the outside, there was exposed blue carbon, but in the clear coat, there was this sort of diamond dust in it, which was also blue. Thankfully, in Italy, sun's out, blaring inside. We had the roof off. Diamond dust is like flecking out all over the exposed carbon. But of course, with it being brand new, it had the latest upgrades. So this is something that's really important about Koenigsegg as a brand. Even though they might have discontinued the production of a car, the evolution and improvements are continually being offered to clients. And this car was subject to every upgrade, software, hardware improvement that is available for Regera. It was probably the best example that I've driven. It was so sweet, so tight, the throttle response was incredible. And just being in it and getting to spend some miles on proper driving roads, as I mentioned, we ended up in the Dolomites, and to throw one of those around was just incredible.
So I've just had a generational leap, right? So we've gone from a 2008 car to a car that was rebuilt last year in a Regera platform. So it's basically a brand new, fresh, latest calibration of software, hardware, evolution and development. And we've like leapfrogged 12 years in Koenigsegg history. Superior leap.
So when you back to back in the same day, let's just say you jump from a CCXR 2009 to a latest version, tweaked version of a Regera. That is a profound generational leap in every attribute. So technology, ride quality, performance, handling, just everything about it. It was like going from a supercar into a spacecraft. That's what it was like.
Oh, my favourite part of any road trip is the fuel stop, mostly because we all get to regroup and remember all of the amazing cars which are around us. So this is an absolute show-stopping spectacle. It's Koenigsegg's drawing up a crowd as it is, but lots of them, you have to open up the rear clam in order to fill them up with fuel. And so, if it wasn't enough of a spectacle to turn up with a Koenigsegg in the first place, you then open the incredible rear engine bay and it draws in everyone. So, yeah, half of these people here who are planning on going about their day have all just decided to stop and, quite rightly so, take photos of all of these phenomenal Koenigsegg's. What a spectacle. It's just crazy that this is happening. You know, we're really fortunate to be, you know, in the car world heavily for the last 6-7 years, and I've never witnessed anything like this. Yeah, so just touching back on how you fill up a Regera and similar Koenigseggs, the fuel filler cap is here, but there's no fuel filler cap here. So in order to fill up with fuel, you have to open the entire rear single piece carbon clamp, and that generates attention.
I mean, all of it's really special, but the really special thing was that Christian and Haldora and their son Sebastian are all on this event, right? And Christian and Haldora are in their own Regera.
And they nutted off down the road, and we then went chasing after them. Sebastian pulled over in the rig and I think was sort of suggesting that we nail it.
And I'm like, go on, mate, send it. He's like, you sure? I said, yeah, it'll be fine. I was like, dude built the car, so he wants to see them used, you know?
So I did.
Oh, the pull is on.
And you hear it like inhale the air around you. Like it created a slightly different density in the air around us. It just goes.
I look at Christian, who's smiling, and James has said,
You just buzzed the bus.
In his own car.
In his own car.
Oh, no.
it's just, I couldn't believe it. You know, I mean, when do you get to do stuff like this? It's a tour in a Koenigsegg, and we're just playing around doing some weird cinematography shots in different cars on the motorway. And it's like James, myself, Christian and Haldora, and Sebastian and Felix. It was just cool.
So, can you imagine when Jumeirah hits the road and there's two of us in the front and two of us hanging out in the back with the world's fastest roof box and 4 carry-on luggage in the boot with 2,300 horsepower. Look at this! Oh, which is ridiculous! It's kind of diaphragm bendingly fast, isn't it? You imagine that with 4 seats and a Jesko engine and a light-speed transmission. 2,300 horsepower with Netflix on. With Netflix on. And a milkshake. And coffee. Generational split here with, I mean, that Jesko got delivered yesterday, that's box fresh. We've got Anagera, a CC850, and we're in a Regera. It's just a ridiculous hypercar spectacle. Okay, this out. We start in the Dolomites. So up there, you can actually see it's still slightly snow-capped up there. We start in there with these, and they're getting fresh. And this is actually Christian's car. So this is the boss man's car. He's getting his washed up right now. So it's been really cool to be on the road with Christian. It's the first time we've been on a sort of joint road trip, which is quite special. Just to give you an idea of the absolute spectacle that is the garage at night here on the Ghost Squadron tour. Isn't it? Look at this. It's ridiculous. So this car just got delivered yesterday. So the customers just started driving that. Pretty cool. I think that's actually destined for Japan. This car's from Dubai, wrapped in gold. I'm not sure if the camera's doing it justice. Weirdly, it kind of pulls it off. I think because the sculpture on it is so extreme, it manages to pull it off. Awesome to have the one and only CC850, which they are currently using as a development car. This is the one that Christian and I did the walk and talk around during Monterey Car Week when it first debuted. We've got the guys from Carrage, KNC, fully naked carbon Jesko attack. It just goes on and on and on. One of the, look, I know all Koenigsegg's are incredibly rare, but as far as editions go, one of 7. The Koenigsegg 1-to-1. It's like an Agera on steroids. Another KNC. We've got the camera team's car, which is the craziest contraption I've seen in quite some time, but so far so good. We've done a fair few hundred kilometers today. The camera's still on it. Everything's good. Another KNC car, Absolute, with no roof. Very special to see one of these, let alone without the roof on it. Dare I say it, the Absolute is slightly more practical than the Attack because it doesn't have the S-duct sort of cooling chimney underneath the frunk, so you can store the lid in the Absolute underneath the frunk, unlike on the Attack. So quite special.
There's over 35,000 combined horsepower in this garage. And when each of these power units is alive, the energy becomes physically tangible. But I never actually got used to seeing such an eclectic and expansive gathering of Koenigsegg's all in one place, actually being driven properly just as they were intended for.
On the last day, I'm sat at lunch and we're just chatting away. We just done a bit of a miserable drive actually in the CCXR because it was absolutely tipping it down with like monsoon style rain. And we're driving along in this thing, we put the roof back on and we're thinking we just want to get back. And we get to lunch and we're all having a bit of a chill and Christian comes over to me and he goes, "Do you want to take the CC850 back?" I'm processing what he just said to me. The CC850 that is on this tour is the only CC850 in existence. The significance of that is it's not that it's like chassis 1 or anything like that. It's that to get that car on the road developed as it is, there isn't a price or a figure that you could put on it, right? So it's literally the only CC850 in existence. It's the factory car, the one that they've done all of the development on. This is the Monterey launch car that we filmed back in Monterey when the sheets came off. This is the actual car that melted the internet when they introduced the automatic manual to the world. So if anyone's watching this going, what are you talking about, the automatic manual?
The CC850 gearbox, of course, fundamentally is based on the Jesko Lightspeed transmission, where we have removed the flywheel and clutch from the engine as the LST doesn't need it. And that's maybe one of the most important parts of the LST transmission, that it frees up the engine to rev freely like a motorcycle engine. It just makes the car so exciting. And on top of that, of course, the LST is small and light, like a 6-speed, even though we have 9-speed gears, but we can shift from any gear lightning fast to any gear without any hesitation. It's one of the fastest shifting gearbox on the planet, and especially from any gear to any other gear. That was the base for the CC850 transmission. And in the CC850, we have combined that with a clutch pedal and a manual shifter to also enable that function. This is a completely modern system of manual shifting. It has all the, let's say, intricacies of a manual shift in feeling and emotion, but it's a sort of an augmented system. It's connected electronically by wires, but it's completely force feedback related. So what's going on in the transmission is what you feel in your hand and in your foot. For example, you cannot just pull out a gear. When engaged, you need to push the clutch. When you want to engage, you need to push the clutch unless you perfectly rev match. It's detents, it's weights, it's force feedback mechanisms, it's temperature sensitive, so it's heavier to shift due to hydraulic functions in the systems when it's cold. So it's a perfect relation to a manual, traditional manual, but the upside is that the gearbox is lighter than a normal manual, and you can have automatic shifting and you can have paddle shifting. And the manual function is not only for nostalgia. It's actually when you drive on a mountainous or a twisty road, it actually elevates the engagement because you can plan your shifting much more than an automatic, first of all, but also than a paddle shift because you can feather the clutch and you can slip in and out of the clutches and smoothly engage gears into entries of corners and exits of corners for over and understeer, so you have more control on a twisty road when you're not looking for just ultimate lap times, but ultimate emotion and control of the car. And it's the most kind of exoskeletonal way of driving a car to have that manual shift experience and clutch experience because you become much more one with the car. And I would also say, given that we don't have a flywheel or clutch on the engine, you can rev match so beautifully because when you blip the throttle, you get this instant reaction that's much faster than any other engine. So you can rev much better than a manual with a heavy clutch and flywheel, or even a light clutch and flywheel, because there is none. So that's the beauty of the ESS shifting system in the CC850.
On the one hand, I'm like, you don't even think about it for a nanosecond, that obviously I'm going to say yes and experience this. On the other hand, I'm acutely aware of how important, valuable, and rare that this car is. And you're like, right, okay, I've got a few hundred miles now, back to the hotel in one of the rarest cars and special cars in the world. But it's the one that I've been dying to drive. It's the one.
This is going to be one of those days, Adam, when your head hits the pillow tonight and you go, yeah, that actually happened.
Yeah. Can you imagine? It's like a hyper modern F40. That's what it's like. Imagine that. Imagine they took an F40, hypercarred it, right? But still retained some of that sort of analog turbo characteristic.
Oh good, we're going again, are we?
Said some cool sentences, Adam, in the last half an hour, but Adrian Sutil being up our rear end in a one-to-one wasn't one I was expecting to add to the profile, but there it is. We're in a Koenigsegg sandwich, gold Jesko up front, Adrian Sutil in a one-to-one behind, and here we are in a CC850, appropriately sandwiched between legends. It's very, very cool. I honestly think today, of the whole trip, just the time with this car was worth it alone.
100%.
Just that stint.
Yeah.
There's evident sort of, turbo profile there. Yet, even before the turbo really kicks in, there's loads the turbo comes in and your whole world melts in front of your own eyes. It's the best. It's the best. I really did. It's like we've got one of the best throttle responses I've ever heard with one of the best sounds I've ever heard in one of the latest. This car's actually not even finished yet. Like, so when I say this is one of the latest cars, we're not in a car that's complete. They're going to turn out sounding like this, but even better. When they're finished, this is going to be even better. If you can even imagine such a thing.
I don't want to like overstate this. I'm not just saying this because, you know, we're obviously now closely affiliated with Koenigsegg. I honestly believe it was one of, if not the most profound modern day driving experience I've ever had.